Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Today's demonstration is all about how you can use even a fairly mundane subject to practice your watercolour skills. I found these dead leaves in my garden recently, and using just my phone and a simple light I took this reference shot to work from. So let's begin. The paper I'm using here is Saunders Waterford 300 gram rough paper, and I've done a quick sketch just to outline where the leaves are, and I'm just using a fairly light mix, very watery mix of some Van Dyke Brown for the first initial wash, for the lightest of lights. Thing with Van Dyke Brown, it's one of those colours that does dry a lot lighter, so even if you put it on quite dark it still dries fairly light and flat, so if you ever use it, be aware of that. I've just mixed up a stronger mix of Van Dyke Brown for the darker shadow areas on the leaves, just dropping that in and just using some clean water to fade it into the rest of the leaf. A little bit of blending with clear water, and then while that's still wet, just dropping in some more of the dark Van Dyke Brown. That will dry much lighter, as I just said, so I'll probably have to darken areas again a bit later. The thing with these practice sketches is not to be too slavish about copying the photograph. It's just a practice piece, and if I make some mistakes then so be it, but again, just putting the darker areas in fairly strong, and then I'll use some clean water, just a damp brush, just to blend in some of the areas into the rest of the leaf. Same technique on the third leaf, just finding the areas where there's a little bit of shadow, bit of difference in colour. Again, putting it on fairly strong to start with and then blending. There's a little bit of green on this third leaf left for some reason, so I just added that with some sap green. Just a bit of variety. The stem of this leaf has stayed fairly green, so again using sap green to put that in. Just using a detail brush to put the veins of the leaves in. Again using a fairly strong mix of Van Dyke Brown. And as you can see, it's dried fairly light, so I'm just darkening some of that shadow area again. Here I'm using a little bit of burnt sienna just to vary the tonal values. A little bit slightly warmer colour. Again, burnt sienna will dry much lighter, so always bear that in mind. Something you need to do really, get to know your palette and which colours dry much lighter, which colours retain some of their colour. All watercolours dry lighter, but some much lighter than others. The earth colours I found tend to dry much lighter than when you've put them on. I mean, this looks quite strong for burnt sienna, but you will see towards the end that it dries much lighter. Again, putting the veins on the third leaf, same technique. Just mix some ultramarine with some burnt sienna to create a bluish grey for the shadows. Again, I'm not trying to be too slavish about copying the photograph exactly. It's just a practice sketch, just a demonstration to show what you can do with a little bit of wet in wet technique. At the end of the day, it's a sketch, not an illustration, so I'm not too fussy. Again, putting some burnt sienna in the on the leaves just to add a little bit more colour. Again, that's, as you can see, it's dried much lighter. I think I'm pretty much finished. I hope you found this useful. It's just a quick demonstration sketch. Don't be slavish about copying photographs if you've got a reference photograph, and don't worry if you make mistakes. As you can see, the shadows on the middle leaf are slightly off, but it's not the end of the world. Please give this a like if you found it useful, and do subscribe and hit the notification bell for future videos. And thanks again for watching.